So let's start with the dynamic programming method. Now, last day we talked about this one, the solution methodology using the priority list method. But this method is applicable when the number of units are very small, like within 5 or maximum within 10. Then we can go for the priority list method. And here the priority means it is based on the average production cost of a particular unit. If the average production cost is lower, then this unit has a highest priority compared to the other. And if it is increased, then the priority order is also increases. And our aim is that the unit which generates the electricity at a lower amount of price, we need to run that unit as much as possible in a particular time, say for 24 hours in a day. So this is the priority list method, but this solution never gives us the optimum economy because we are actually using it as a priority list method or based on their average production cost. Now, more practical solution is called the dynamic programming method. Here, the main advantage of this dynamic programming method is that if the number of units are more, say 10 units or 20 units, 30 units, then we can use it in the computer programming to generate the economical solution for the unit commitment. Though this unit commitment solution procedure is also not most optimal, this is also called suboptimal method. Means it not gives us the most economical method, but very close to the economical solution. The main problem is that here, if we want to find out the most economical solution using the dynamic programming method, then we need to solve a large number of equations. And this is not very much practical because for the 10 unit in a particular hour, if we want to run the dynamic programming method, then we need to solve at least 2 to the power 10 equation for 1 hour. And for the whole day, it should be this 2 to the power 10 minus 1 to the power 24. So means very, very high number of equation we need to solve to find out the most optimum solution, which is practically not possible. That's why we go for the heuristic method. Now here it is written that the meaning of this underline is that the most advantage of the dynamic programming approaches is that initially what we do, problem of finding optimum output of various units for a given load. Okay, so one load demand is given and we actually want to find out what are the units should commit to meet that load demand. That was the actual problem. So this problem is replaced by the problem of finding the optimum outputs of the various units for all loads. Remember, this is the difference. We are not actually finding out the solution for a particular load demand. We are actually finding the solution for all loads between the minimum output and the maximum capacity of the units. It means when you do the example, it will be more clear to you. Suppose the load demand is say 100 megawatt. Initially, what we do, we are actually find out that how the 100 megawatt is generated by the committed unit. Say 10 units are there, but all the 10 units, we should not run all the 10 units to meet the 100 megawatt, because suppose 5 units is sufficient to meet that demand. So that means we need to find out the solution that which 5 units should generate that or should contribute to that generation to generate the 100 megawatt. But now in the dynamic programming method, we are not limited to the generation for 100 megawatt, but because this is a particular load demand. So we need to generate that what will be the range of the load demand, because the load demand is varying continuously in a day. Suppose the load demand is varying from 10 megawatt to 100 megawatt throughout the day. So that means we need to find out, means we are actually going to find out the solution for generating the 10 megawatt to 100 megawatt using the defined unit committed. That is the advantage of the dynamic programming, so that if the load demand is changed to another value, obviously within the range 10 to 100 megawatt, we doesn't need to do any separate programming for that. We have a complete list once we run the dynamic programming method. So from the list, we can easily assume that if the load demand is changed to a new value, then what are the units should commit in that particular situation. So this is the advantage of the dynamic programming over the other methods. Again, I am saying, what was the problem? Main problem was the dimensionality problem, because we need to solve a large number of equations to find out the most optimum solution. This is the first problem. In the 1 minute, please. ক্লাসে আছি, ক্লাস হয়ে গেলে যাচ্ছি। So this is not a very practical way to solve all these large number of equation, because it takes so many times, and within this time load demand is also changed. Because when you know the answer, the question is already changed, like this one. So that's why we go for this heuristic method. Here we need to take some assumption, and first one is the priority list method. And in this priority list method, what we do, based on their average unit production, based on their average generation cost, we make a priority list, and based on this one, the highest priority unit should run as much as the time period, then the next one, then the next one, like this one. But here is that in all the methods except this dynamic programming method, what we do, we first decide what is the load demand. Suppose the load demand is 70 megawatt, and in this 70 megawatt, for this particular time duration, fixed 70 megawatt load demand is there, and based on the 70 megawatt load demand, we are actually schedule our generation. That how that 70 megawatt load demand is produced, what are the units should commit, like this one. Now if the 70 megawatt is changed to 80 megawatt, then what we do, we need to run the program again. That is the main problem in the other programming, other solution methodology. And in the dynamic programming method, what we do, we are not limited to the load demand as 70 megawatt. We need to find out what is the range of the load demand. Say it is 10 to 100 megawatt load demand is there. In the base load time, the load demand is 10 megawatt. In the peak load time, the load demand is 100 megawatt. So we do all the condition. We will find out all the condition for generating that load demand starting from 10 megawatt to 100 megawatt. And here the advantage is that if the load demand is suddenly changed to say 70 megawatt to 80 megawatt, then we doesn't need to do any kind of calculation for this one. We have a list, and based on that list, we can assume that or you can decide that if the load demand is 80 megawatt, what are the unit need to be committed. Now, there are two types of dynamic programming method. First one is the dynamic programming sequential combination, or it is called the DPSC method. And the second one is the dynamic programming truncated combination. This one is called the dynamic DPTC. Now, objective may come on one when we use the DPSC and when we use the DPTC. DPSC is used when there is a rapid change in load demand will be there. So if the load demand is changes rapidly, then we must go for the dynamic programming sequential combination. And when the load demand is varying in a smooth way or within a particular small range, then we must go for the dynamic programming truncated combination. Now, what is the difference between, this is the first one, that when we go for the DPSC, when we go for the DPTC. Now, the basic difference between DPSC and DPTC is that in the DPSC, dynamic programming sequential combination, we switch on or we commit one unit at a time. Like, in order to give in the priority list sequence, suppose thus we have 10 units. So we must try 11 combination. How? First one is that all units are switched off. This is our first one, first combination. So obviously when there is no load demand, we switch off all the units. Generally, for the practical case, we should not use that one, because no condition is there when the load demand is 0. Then priority 1 unit on, this is the second condition. Then the priority 1 and 2 units on. Then priority 1 to 3 units are on, and so on up to all units on. So that means for the 10 units, we must try 11 combination. Like this one. Suppose we have 5 units. So this is say unit 1, this is unit 2, this is unit 3, This is unit 4. Say we have 4 units. So in the DPSC, dynamic programming sequential combination, first we switch on the unit 1 because this unit 1 has a highest priority. Why it has a highest priority? Because the average production cost of this unit is lower. So that's why it has a highest priority. So this is our first combination. Second, we must switch on this one and that one because this is the second highest priority. Third combination is that this one should switch on. And the fourth one, all the units should be switched on. And we have this one is not 0, this one is 1. And initially we switched off all the units. So this is our first condition. This is a theoretical condition because practically we should not use that one. So that means for the 4 units, we have total 5 condition or 5 combination. And among the 5 combination, we must choose the best one to meet the load demand. And this one is called the dynamic programming sequential combination. And as per you see, this one is quite similar to the priority list method. But here is that here both the units should be switched on at a time if load demand is not successfully met by the unit 1. So that's why this will also not give the most of economical solution. This is called the suboptimal solution. And this is called the DPSC. When we use the DPSC, we use the DPSC when there is a huge load demand changes there. Come to this one. This is called the dynamic programming truncated combination. So dynamic programming truncated combination. Here we use this one when the load demand is varying within a small range. Now let's see what is the difference between these two things. Suppose we have 4 units, unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4. So in the DPSC, first, suppose this one is the highest priority. Unit 1 has the highest priority, then the unit 2, then the unit 3, then the unit 4. So if we switch on the unit 1, then the value is what? Suppose the value is, this is the highest priority. So that means this is nothing but the 8 in digital electronics. So this is the 4 value. So 1, 0, 0, 0 means 8. Second one is how much? 1, 1, 0, 0. So what is the value of 1, 1, 0, 0? It's equal to 12. Then 1, 1, 1, 0. What is this one?
14.
And at last, we give the 1, 1, 1, 1. That means it is 15. So here you see that if the load demand is varying from 8 to 15, that is a huge range. So if the load demand is varying rapidly, then only we can use the DPSC method. But what we do in the DPTC method? This is a truncated combination. So in the DPTC method, we are not do the programming with all the units. We actually do the programming with some limited units like this one. So suppose this one is say 0, 0 all this time. So we actually schedule or commit these two units, unit 3 and unit 4. So if we have all these things, so that means if these are 1, 0, then what is the value? Because 4 only possible combinations are there, 1, 0, 0, 1 and 1 1. So 3 possible combinations are there. So that means this one is equal to 2, this one equal to 1, this one equal to 3. So you see that here the load demand is varying within a limited range. So in this time, we actually use the DPTC, and in this range, we are using the DPSC. So DPSC is the method where all the units should be inside our programming and we should commit all the units one by one. And DPTC, here we are not actually using this one. When the load demand is varying on a very small range, then we are using this one, and here all the units are not committed. Particularly some selected units must be committed here, and we are using the various combination of this unit to find out the load demand. That will be more clear when you do the example. Here you see. So for a system with 4 units, generation of combination for different DP methods is depicted in table 5. Like this one, here 4 units are there, and 4 units means how many possible combinations are there? Total 16 possible combination is there. Okay, 2 to the power 4. So these are the combination number 0 to 15. That means total 16 combinations are there, and these are the combination starting from 0, 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1, 1. This is the DP units. Now in the DPSC sequential programming method, first all the units are 0, then the unit 1 should be switch on, then the unit 1, 2 should be switch on, unit 1, 2, 3 should be switch on, and at last all the units should be switch on. So these 5s are only the combination, and based on these 5 we need to find out which one is the optimum one. So that means among the 16 total possible combination, we are not handling the 16 equation at a time. From the 16 we assume something and we make it 5, and with this 5 we are actually finding the optimum solution to find out the optimum unit, this sub-optimum unit commitment problem solution. Then come to the DPTC. Here you see that here we are actually not using the unit 4. Unit 4 either switch on or the switch off based on the load demand. So if the load demand is high enough, so unit 4 should be switch on, and if the load demand is very low enough, so then the unit 4 should be switch off. So unit 4 is not part of our programming method. Here we using the unit 3, 2 and 1, and if we use the unit 3, 2 and 1, then these are our possible combinations starting from 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1. So that means actually there are 8 possible combinations are there, but 0, 0, 0 are not used generally. So that's why total 7 combinations are there, and among the 7 combination, we need to find our optimum solution. So which one give the more accurate result? Can somebody tell me which one give the more accurate result, DPSC or the DPTC?
So DPTC.
Why DPTC?
It has more number of combinations.
Very good.
So resolution would be more.
Yes. Suppose if I just tell you that which one is the more accurate, 10.01 or 10.01098. So which one is the most accurate, 10.01 or 10.0109? So obviously this one is the more accurate because this is a most fractional value. Similarly, this one, as the DPTC handle more number of equations, so that means it will give the more accurate result compared to the DPSC. But remember one thing, both the solution are not giving the optimum solution. Optimum solution if you handle all the 16 equation, but which is not possible here. So that means both are suboptimal solution, but this one is more accurate compared to the DPSC. DPSC is used when the load demand is varying rapidly, and DPTC is used when the load demand is generally varying smoothly within a particular limit. So in DP, all combinations are generated. So this is actually the DP dynamic programming units. All possible combinations are there, starting from 0, 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1, 1, giving all 16 combination. In DPSC, we have only 5. That means 4 plus 1. 4 is this one, and 1 is this all 0. The units are turned on one by one in priority order. In DPTC, we used a subset of 3 units. If the sum of their capacity is sufficient to meet the load demand, try all combination of the unit 3. The condition is that 3 units should have capacity to meet the demand. This is the capacity. That means if we switch off the unit 4, then the first condition is that the summation of the generation of unit 3, 2 and 1 should meet the load demand. Then only we can go for this one. Otherwise, if it is not possible to meet the load demand just by taking the summation of unit 3 to 1, then we need to switch on the unit 4. Now these are the DP algorithm. These are the things which we need to know before we go for this one. No load costs are not considered. Unit input output characteristics are linear between 0 output and full load. No other constraints are considered. Startup costs do not vary and are fixed in amount. And these are the assumptions we should make when we approach this one. Now let's do some real example. But before we go for this one, we must know one recursive formula for finding out the optimum solution, suboptimum solution rather. This is actually Fn. While we do this thing, you need to remember this formula because this is the only one formula used here. And if you're able to remember this formula, you can easily do the problem. Fnx equal to minimum y, Fny plus Fn minus 1, x minus 1. So what is this one? First is Fny. So this Fny is the cost of generating y megawatt with the nth unit operating alone. So this is the cost of generating the y megawatt when the nth unit is operating alone. For example, F350. So what is the meaning of F350? That means the cost of generating this 50 megawatt with unit 3 operating alone. That is the meaning of this one. Then what is the meaning of Fnx? So Fnx is the cost of generating x megawatt with n units. For example, F280. So F280 means it is the cost of generating 80 megawatt with 2 units committed. Okay. Then we need to remember this formula and we need to find out how to solve the unit commitment problem using the DPSC. Now here you see so consider a plant with 4 units which has to supply say 40 megawatt and the load is allowed to vary in steps of 10 megawatt. So given the production cost of all the units, the algorithm is applied as follows. So it has 4 units which has to supply 40 megawatt. So 40 megawatt is the load demand and this load demand is varying in steps with 10 megawatt. We need to find out the solution. So first arrange the units in priority order. So assume unit 1 is committed based on their production cost. So find the cost of generating 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt, 30 megawatt and 40 megawatt with unit 1. So as I mentioned that the dynamic programming method not finding out the solution for a particular load demand, it finds all the possible combinations of the load demand. So here you see as the load demand is 40 megawatt this time only, but load demand can be varying in 10 megawatt in steps. So that means load demand may be 10 megawatt, maybe 20 megawatt, maybe 30 megawatt, maybe 40 megawatt in the future time. Now it is 40 megawatt. Now the load demand is 40 megawatt, but it may be changed to these values in the future. So we must find out that what will be the production cost of the generating cost of unit 1 when unit 1 is supplying this megawatt alone. So assume then that this is the next step. Assume unit 1 and 2 are committed. To supply the 40 megawatt, we have the following option. So load supplied by unit 1, load supplied by unit 2 and total load. So if the load supplied by the unit 1 is 40 megawatt, then total load demand is met. So unit 2 doesn't need to generate anything. So that's why the load supplied by the unit 2 is 0 megawatt. If it is 30, then it is 10 megawatt. So total load demand should be 40 megawatt because 40 megawatt is the load demand in this particular time. So how these are generated? If it is generated by the unit 1, then unit 2 should generate nothing. So in this way, we must draw some table. So for each of the allocation, determine the cost of production which yield lowest cost for producing 40 megawatt. Because these are the condition. This is our first condition. This is the second condition, third condition, fourth condition, fifth condition. So these all are the condition for generating the 40 megawatts using the unit 1 and unit 2. And we need to find out the production cost for this one. And here from the table 1, though the table 1 is not completed because the unit 1, the production cost is not given, you need to find out the production cost. So 1 minute, please. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So we need to find out the production cost or the operating cost for these various combination, and from this one we need to choose the lowest one. That is the thing we need to do in the next example. Then After this one, we go for this one, that load supplied by unit 1, load supplied by unit 2, and this is the total load. So when the load demand maybe become 30, so when the 30 megawatt is supplied by unit 1, then unit 2 should not generate anything. So then the total load demand equal to 30. So in this way, we again need to find out the production cost for this 30 megawatt generation, and we need to find out the optimum solution. Then, 1 minute please. Then we need to find out that when the unit 3 is committed to meet the 40 megawatt load demand, if unit 3 is alone generating 40 megawatt, then a load supplied by unit 1 and 2, it is 0. Again, we need to find out various combination for generating the 40 megawatt, but in that time, unit 3 is also committed. And every time we need to find out the production cost. And from this one, we need to find out the condition, best condition to generating that particular load demand. Okay, now, so last time we just do the example. I think after this one, it will be more clear to you. Remember one thing, that here we are not generating only the particular load demand during that time. Rather, we are generating a schedule for all the load demand, all the possible load demands in the future time also. And every time we must find out the optimum condition. So here you see. So see these things very carefully, because this is a very critical example. But if you understand this example, you can do any type of unit commitment problem. So determine the most economical units to be committed for a load of 80 megawatt to be supplied by a plant. The load is varying in steps of 10 megawatt. The plant has 4 units. The plant has 4 units. The cost curve for any unit I at a generation level PGI is given by this one. So this one is actually the cost function of this one. CI equal to AI PGI square plus BI PG. The coefficient of the various unit is given as follow. So this one is the table where all the ABs are given for all the units. There are total 4 units. For unit 1, A equal to this A equal to 0.35, B equal to 25. Similarly, for the unit 4, it's equal to 1.2 and 30. And this is the priority order of this particular units. Is the question clear? Is the question clear? Hello.
Yes, sir.
So again, I'm saying that there are total 4 units in a plant. The load demand is 80 megawatt right now, but that load demand may be varying in steps of 10 megawatt. The cost function is given, and the AB of all these particular 4 units are given. Actually, the cost function of the 4 units is given here using the table. The load demand of the plant varies during the day from a minimum of 10 megawatt to a maximum of 200 megawatt. So neglecting the transmission cost, determine the unit commitment table for the plant for the whole day. PG means equal to 10 megawatt, that a particular unit, the minimum generation is 10 megawatt and the maximum generation is 80 megawatt for all the units. Okay. So let's see how we need to find how we will be able to find out the unit commitment table. So solution, step 1. So compute the cost of generation for each unit in steps of 10 megawatt. So we calculate FIY in the steps with Y varying from 10 megawatt to 80 megawatt. This is actually with Y varying from 10 megawatt to 80 megawatt in steps of 10 megawatt, and I varying from 1 to 4. I is the number of unit. It varying from 1 to 4 for 4 units. For example, F130. So it is what? It is the cost of producing 30 megawatt unit 1 and is given by AI PGI square plus BI B1 PG1. as calculated as follow, because you see, as in case of unit 1, the A is 0.35, B is 25. So in this expression, just give the A 0.35, 30 square plus 25 into 30, like this one, because 30 is the generation, and it's coming that F130 equal to $1065. Similarly, we need to calculate F110, F120 up to F180, because these are the minimum and maximum generating limits of the particular units. And we need to find out also for the plan to F210, F220 up to F280, F310 to F380, F410 to F480. So first, this is our first task, step 1. We need to calculate the production cost for this particular units. So after the calculation, we put it in the table. This is F110. What is F110? F110 is the cost of generation of 10 megawatts when unit 1 is alone. So these are all the data when unit 1 is alone operating. Okay. This is for 20 unit, this is for 30 unit, this is for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. F2, these are the F2 units. The cost of generation of the unit when the F2 is alone. Come to this one. So we first consider unit 1 to be on. Now F1x is the cost of production, cost of producing X megawatt with unit 1. Therefore, F110 equal to 285 as it is. F210 equal to 640. F130 equal to 1065. F140 equal to 1560, like this one. And at last F180 equal to 4240. This is our step 1. Now step 2, we assume unit 2 is also committed. Now we switch on the unit 2 also. So F280 is the production cost of producing 80 megawatt with 2 units, unit 1 and 2. Because all these things in the priority order, so that means when unit 2 is committed, unit 1 should also on. So that's why F280 is not the production cost of the 80 megawatt by unit 2 alone. Rather, F280 is the production cost of generating 80 megawatt by unit 1 and 2. We can meet 80 megawatt with 2 units as follow. How? 0 megawatt from unit 2 and 80 megawatt from unit 1. This is one of the case that how can we meet the 80 megawatt load demand. 10 megawatt from unit 2 and 70 megawatt for unit 1. And also 80 megawatt from unit 2 and 0 megawatt for unit 1. Now the cost is calculated here. Look. So you need to know this particular formula, because this formula is used everywhere. And this formula is based on this one. Fnx equal to minimum of Fny plus Fn minus 1 x minus y. Let's see how the formula is derived. F280. F280 means cost of production to produce 80 megawatt using unit 1 and 2. Okay. So first is that how to generate 80 megawatt using 1 and 2. Just look at the table. The generation is varying from 10 to 80 for all the units. That means unit 1 can generate 10 megawatt to 80 megawatt in steps of 10. Similarly, the unit 2 also can generate 10 megawatt to 80 megawatt in steps of 10. So can somebody tell me what are the defined combination to producing the 80 megawatt using unit 1 and 2? It's not very complicated. So please think how to generate 80 megawatt using unit 1 and 2. What are the defined combination? So just say me the combination. First combination is what?
The 10 and 70, then 20.
Yeah, 10 and 70 is correct, but this is the second one. First one say please. First one please say
80.
No, 80
Oh,
and
sorry, 70 and 10.
70 and 10 is the second one. Okay. Initially what? Initially starting from 0. So just say this one. So 0 and 80. Isn't?
So, but
Unit
unit 1 should always comment.
unit 1 should always count, but that is the theoretical condition. So as I mentioned in the DPTC, sorry, in the DPSC, the initial combination is 0, 0, 0, 0. So we have to consider this one also, but with this one, it never come in the picture. So that means first condition is that unit 1 generation is 0, unit 2 generation is 80. Okay, this is our first condition. So that's why I write this particular term. What is the meaning of this one? First, 0. 0 means how much money is required, or how much dollar is required to producing 0 megawatt using unit 1? এটা বোঝ, না হলে কিন্তু পরে মুশকিল হবে। How much cost is involved to producing 0 megawatt using unit 1?
So no cost.
No cost. So that means if the unit 1 is not generating anything, so why the cost is required? So that's why it is 0. Okay. So second one, how much cost is required to generating 80 megawatt using unit 2?
So from the table it's 4240.
From the table it is 4240. So this one. Acha, 1 minute please. This one is actually the unit 2 is 0, unit 1 is generating 80 megawatt. Okay, this one is the first one is unit 1 is 80 megawatt, unit 2 is 0. So now let's see what is the second condition. Second condition is unit 1 equal to 70 megawatt and unit 2 equal to 10 megawatt. Now let's see the production cost of unit 1 to generate 70 megawatt. How much it is? Unit 1, 70 megawatt.
3465.
So you see,
3465.
the 3465 is written. Now what will be the production cost of unit 2 for generating 10 megawatt? Unit 2, 10.
350.
350.
So you see that 350 is written here. So now come to the third one. Third one is tale koto hobe? Unit 1, 60. So unit 1, 60, how much?
2760.
2760. And if unit 1 is 60, then unit 2 is obviously 20. So unit 2, 20.
860.
860. So
860.
860. So in this way, the next one is unit 150 and unit 2, 30. Next one is unit 140, unit 240. Next one is unit 130, unit 250. Then unit 120, ota 50. Eta 10, eta 70. And last one is unit 1 is 0, unit 2 is 80. Okay. Then just do the calculation. 0 plus 4240 is 4240. Okay, then 350 plus 3465, it's equal to 3815. In this way, just do the calculation and find out the minimum one. Which one is the minimum one here?
The third one.
This one.
This
This one is 3620. This is the third one. So that's why you write, as it is called minimum. So we need to find out the minimum from this particular array, and it is coming 3620. What is the combination of 3620? This one. Okay, and this one is what? This one is F220 and F160. That means F1 is generating 60 megawatt of power and F2 is generating 20 megawatt of power. So total is 80. Got this one? If you not understand this one, please ask me again, because this thing we need to repeat again and again to find out the minimum solution. Okay, so if you understand this one, then go for this. This is equal to F270. So F270, how to find out the F270? So actually I forget to mention this one. If I write it in this way, then it will be more clear to you. So F270, here you see, it's equal to minimum of F20, F170. That means F1 generating 70, F2 generating 0. So total 70 megawatt is satisfied. Second one is F210, F160, F220, F150, F230, F140. In this way, the last condition is F270, F10. Okay. So all this possible combination is written here. Then from this particular table, you need to write the values according to this particular position. Say for the first one, I just write this one. F20 is 0 and F170, just look where F170 is 3465. So that means 0 plus 3465 is written here. Then we need to do the calculation here in the third array. And from this one, we need to find out the minimum one. And here you see the minimum one is this one, 2985. And 2985 reflects which condition? This condition. This is the third one. So third one means this condition. And this condition is F220, F150. So F220, F150. Now what is the meaning of this one? This is also some meaning is obviously there. So that means the meaning is that to generating the 80 megawatt using unit 1 and 2, this is the possible generating combination. And this is the minimum condition, that to generate the 80 megawatt using unit 1 and 2, F1 should generate 60 megawatt and F2 should generate 20 megawatt. Similarly, to generate 70 megawatt of power, though the 70 megawatt is not the requirement of this load demand, but in the future it may happen. So when the 70 megawatt load demand is there and unit 1 and 2 is committed, then F1 is 50 megawatt and F2 equal to 20 megawatt. Similarly, as I mentioned, we need to find all the possible combination. So we need to find F260, and this is the condition. F250, this is the condition. F240 condition. F230 condition. F220 condition, and at last F210 condition. Okay. So we have the best option for varies the output in 2 units. So after this expression, we just write it in the gist form that F210 equal to 285, which is equal to F110. Then F2, you see this one, F210 equal to F110, and the minimum cost is 285. That's why it is written in this gist form. Then F220, it's equal to 635, and the condition is this F210 and F110. Similarly, all the condition is written here. So these steps gives us the best commitment with 2 units for all the loads from 10 megawatt to 80 megawatt. Now, next step. So next, assume unit 3 is also committed. Now it's become more complicated because initially considered that only the unit 1 is committed, then unit 1 and 2 both are committed, and third condition, the unit 3 is also committed. So again, we need to find out the possible condition, the minimum cost for all the possible condition of the load, combination of the load. So when F3 equal to 80, we need to know that it's equal to nothing but F30 and F280. What is the meaning of these two things? What is F30? What is the meaning of this first one, F30?
F30, the cost required to generate 0 megawatt using unit 1. Unit 3, sorry.
Unit 3. And what is capital F280?
The combination of 1 and 2 that we got.
So that means to generating the 80 megawatt, the generation of 80 megawatt, what are the minimum cost for using unit 1 and 2? Similarly, it's equal to F310, F270, F320, F26. So all the possible combination is written. And now see how the values is actually calculated. F30 is obviously 0 because no cost is required when the unit is not generating any power. We need to find out capital F280. How to find out capital F280? Here you see. This one is not coming from the table because this table is the individual generation cost. Okay, this table is the individual generation cost. So how to find out the capital F280? So capital F280 equal to coming from this one, from the step 2, and it is coming 3620. So we just write 3620 here. Similarly, F310. F310 is coming from the initial table, individual cost. I think it should be 400. F310 is equal to 400. And second one is F2, capital F2, 70. Capital F2 70 is from the step 2, 2985. So 2985 is there. Then we need to calculate all these things. We need to add them together and we need to find out the minimum one, and minimum one is coming here is 3385. So this is 3385. And this 3385 is which one? The second condition. So second condition means F310 plus capital F2 70. Okay. In this way, we need to find out the values of F270, the condition, F260, the condition, and all these possible combination. And we must write it in this form. So as this is the capital F310, that means when we producing the 10 megawatt using unit 1, 2, 3, then this is the cost required. Okay. Capital F320 means when we want to produce the 20 megawatt using unit 1, 2, and 3, then this is actually the cost involved. Now at last, the next or the step 4, when the unit 4 is also committed, we need to write the all possible combination using the unit 4. So F480 equal to minimum of F40 plus F380. F380 is coming from this one. So it's equal to 3385. So 0 plus 3385. In this way, we need to do all this calculation. And here the minimum coming is 3240. So 3240 is the second one, which is F410, F370. F410, F370. And in this way, we need to do this one also. So you see F480. Now we go for the backward calculation. Backward calculation, what is called the backward calculation? This one is called the backward calculation. F480. F480, it is coming F410 plus F370. It is coming F410 plus F370. Now, this F370, what is the F370? F370 is nothing but F310 plus capital F260. Now replace this value, F310 capital F260. Now what is the capital F260? So just find out this one. Capital F260 equal to F220 plus F140. Write it here. F220 plus F140. Then F140 means what? F140, capital F140 means small f140 obviously, because only one unit is committed. So ultimately it is coming that F480 is the F410, F310, F220, F120. And for how much is cost is involved, it's coming 3240. So thus to supply 80 megawatt, all 4 units have to be committed, with unit 1 supplying 40 megawatt, unit 2 supplying 20 megawatt, unit 4 and unit 3 should supply 10 megawatt each. So we can calculate the minimum cost for supplying different loads with 4 units. We start with 20, 30 and so on. Let us calculate for F420. So F420, again we need to calculate it according to this one. And it's coming 635. This is the condition. Then F330, F440. So F450 obviously. So in F450 we see that all the 4 units should be committed. So from this discussion, we must find out the unit commitment table. The table is that for demand PD equal to 10 megawatt, commit unit 1 only. Why? Because here you see so this one you see F310 is coming 285. Let's see what is F210. So F210 is also 285, and here you see F110. That means when the load demand is this one, 10 megawatt, commit the unit 1 only. Because here you see from the formula on the unit 2 is not generating anything. Only as 285 is the minimum cost, and to generate this one, only the unit 1 is required. So that's why in the GIST table, we write it here that for demand PD equal to 10 megawatt, commit unit 1 only. For the load demand greater than 10 but less than equal to 30 megawatt, commit unit 1 and 2. How? Because if you just see the F30, FD30 or F430, then it see that, let's see, F430 means all the unit is committed actually, but ultimately it is coming 990. And this one is F4 equal to 0 and F330 is there. Now look, what is F330? Because F4 0 means the F unit 4 is not generating anything. So what is F330? Let's see, F330 means it's equal to 990, and here it's equal to, oh, this one is F330 is written. Let me check what is F330. So here you see F330, it's actually F3 equal to 0 and this is equal to F230. Now let's check what is F230. F230 means it's equal to 990. Here F1 equal to 10, F1 equal to 20. F2 equal to 10, F1 equal to 20. So that means here unit 1 and 2 is committed. So that means up to 10 to 30 megawatt, unit 1 and 2 should commit. Similarly, for demand equal to 40 megawatt, unit 1, 2 and 3 should commit. It is coming from this decision. So if you just look at the 40, then you see here 31390 is required, and to generate this one only the F330 is there, F440 is there. Now what is F340? F340, just look at this one. F340 is this one, F3 plus 1. So you see all the units are actually committed, means unit 1, 2 and 3 all are committed. And if it is more than 50 megawatt, then if it is more than 50 megawatt, then commit all the units. So this is the UC table which is required actually. So if the load demand is 10 megawatt, unit 1 should commit. 20 to 30, unit 1, 2 should commit. If it is 40, then 1 to 3 should commit. And if it is more than 50 megawatt up to 200, because the 200 megawatt is the maximum load demand which is given in the question. So if it is if it is more than 50 megawatt up to 200 megawatt, all the units should commit. So this is called the UC table based on their priority order. Now, so consider load demand 30 megawatt to be dispatched. So from table 7, we can see that for a load of 30 megawatt, only the unit 1 and that should be unit 2. This one is wrongly writing unit 3. That is actually the unit 2. So for 30 megawatt, unit 1 and 2 should commit. So unit 1 and 2 should be committed. The total load 30 megawatt is dispatched using coordination equation. So this unit commitment problem is actually give us what are the unit should generate and what are the unit should not generate to that particular load demand. But how they actually generate, this one is you need to find out using the economic coordination equation or economic dispatch formula. So using the data given, the data is also given in the problem, and this is actually the formula, because we know that this incremental fuel cost should be same. So this is the incremental fuel cost for this one. This is the incremental fuel cost for the unit 2, and the total load demand equal to 30 megawatt for this particular example. So after solving this one, it's coming that PG1 equal to 21.74 megawatt and PG2 equal to 8.26 megawatt. But according to the limit given, unit must generate at least 10 megawatt of power. So that means that should be fixed to 10 megawatt. So since PG2 less than the PG minimum, the limit, we let PG1 equal to 20 megawatt and PG2 equal to PG min equal to 10 megawatt. So that can be find out using the coordination equation. But this unit commitment solution is actually gives us that when the load demand is 30 megawatt, then among the 4 different unit, what are the unit should commit? And it gives us that if the load demand is 30 megawatt, then unit 1 and unit 2 should commit or should generate the production or should generate the electricity, while the unit 4 and unit 3 should be decommitted in that particular situation. This thing is given by the unit commitment, but how the 30 megawatt is actually distributed among the unit 1 and 2, that can be given using the economic generation criteria. So this is the exact solution, but as the exact solution cross the limit, so we need to fix it at 10. So if the PG2 become 10, PG1 definitely become 30 minus 10 or 20. Then this is the another problem, same as this one. This is a load pattern is given. Based on the previous example, we need to find out the unit commitment table. Because you see that this is actually the condition that when the load demand is 10 megawatt, unit 1 commit, 20 to 30, unit 2, 3 commit, 40, 1 to 3 commit, and more 50 to 200, 1 to 3, 4 all should be committed. And here you see the load demand is 20 megawatt. Here it is 40 megawatt, 100 to 120, 60, 10. So among the defined time, so suppose 0 to 2 hours, what are the units should commit? You need to write it here according to this one. So 0 to 2, as the load demand is 20. So you see only the unit 1 and 2 should commit. If the from 2 to 4 hours, the load demand is 40. So if the load demand is 40 or more than 10, 30, so unit 1 to 3 should commit. Then actually 4 to these 9 hours, unit 1, 2, 3, 4 all should commit. So you see 4 to these 9 hours, unit 1, 2, 3, 4 all are commit. They actually break it like this one. And 9 to 11, as the load demand is 10 only, so only the unit 1 should commit, and 11 to 20, as there is the load demand is 0, so no unit is committed in that time. Unit A, we need to find out the UC schedule or unit commitment schedule. That's why you see that if you just do this kind of thing only one time, then whatever be the load demand, we can find out the best solution using the minimum value find out in this different table. Okay, come to the last example. So consider 4 units that have to be committed. The data of the units are given in table 9. So enumerate the different states of the system and prepare the priority list based on the production cost. So here you see 4 units are there. Unit 1, 2, 3, 4. Their minimum generating capacity, their maximum generating capacity, and the minimum generating capacity is also given. This is the full load average cost. This is also given, and startup cost is also given here. You need to find out this unit commitment schedule. So a state is an array of units. Since we have 4 units, we have 16 total possible states. From 0, 0, 0, 0 when the no units are committed to 1, 1, 1, 1 when all the units are committed. So that's the states are designated number 0 to 15. Depending on the output capacity of the particular state, the result is tabulated in table 10. So here you see these are all state number 0 to 15 states are there, and this is actually the unit commitment. 0, when 0 is there, there is nothing generated. Then this is 0, 0, 0, 1. Then after, let me ask you one thing, that after 0 it should be 0, 0, 0, 1, no problem. But why after 1 it is written 1, 0, 0, 0? Because in the digital electronics we studied that after 0, 0, 0, 1 it should be 0, 0, 1, 0. That means 2. That is equal to.
So probably unit 3 minimum capacity.
Yeah, no, not minimum capacity. That is actually based on the minimum cost. So here you see that this is the unit 1 whose generating capacity is 20. Maximum is 100, minimum is 20 megawatt. Okay, so first we generate 1. 1 means what? According to based on this one, 4th unit. So 4th unit, its maximum generating capacity is 75. That's why we write the 75 megawatt. Maximum we can, if we commit this unit 4 only, then maximum we can generate 70 megawatt. After that 70, which one was coming? 100. So that means we should commit this one then. So if we commit this one 1000, then maximum we can generate 100 megawatt. After that, if we need to add them together. So if we just commit unit 1 and 4, then what are the maximum generating capacity we have? 175. 100 plus 75. That means after this one, 175 is there. After that, after 175, then you see 250 is there. So we should commit the unit 2 in that time. So that's why 10100 is there to commit the unit 2. In this way, you need to complete the table for all possible combinations, and here the net capacity is written in the ascending order.
স্যার বলছি
Ascending order.
এটা একটু আরেকবার
Yes.
বলবেন
আচ্ছা দাঁড়া আমি বলছি এখান থেকে এটা মুছবো কি করে আমি here you see these are actually the number of states, and as total 4 units are there, so total state should be 16. No problems are there. Starting from 0 to 15 states are there. And in digital electronics, we studied that 0 means all are 0000. After that 0001. Then after 0001, we must write 0010. So why it is written after 0010? Why it is written 1000? Because this is actually based on the how much generating capacity they have. Or you can do one thing, you can write as you studied in the digital electronics, after 0 then 1 then 2 then 3 4 5 6 in this way up to 1111 according to the digital electronics order, and in every time you must write the capacity, maximum generating capacity. Suppose this one, say for example 1100. What is the 1100? 1100 means unit 1 and 2 should be committed. So if unit 1 and 2 should be committed, what is the maximum generating capacity? 1 and 2. 350. Because 1 means 100, 2 means 250. So total 350. So you see it is 350 is written. Okay. Then suppose 1011. 1011 means how much? Unit 1, 2 and 4. So if unit 1, 2 and 4 are committed, then what will be the generating capacity?
One zero one one to unit 1, 3 and 4.
1011. This one is 1100. Oh, sorry, 1011. Sorry, 1011 means unit 1, 1011, unit 1 and 3, 4. So it's equal to 475. So you see that 475 is written. So that means you can write all these things according to you studied in the digital electronics. Then you need to arrange it according to the their net capacity in the ascending order. Then you can easily find out this table. Got my point?
হ্যাঁ স্যার
Yes, sir.
After that, what you do? So when you use the DPSC, we do not try the solution with all 15 steps. Instead, we try only 4 states. And these 4, the unit are first arranged in a priority order as follow. This is our unit priority order. Priority 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's see which one is the highest priority. So priority is always based on their production cost. So priority 1 is always the unit 3 because it has only 198 production cost. After 198, the unit 2, which is 212, then 1, then 4. So that means based on the priority order, 3, 2, 1, 4, and this is the average cost which is given in the table. So thus, with all this priority order, we examine only 4 states as shown in table 1. Unit 3 is committed. The array is this one, 0010. Obviously, if unit 3 is committed, this is 0010. And the state number is from this table. 0010 means that step, number 5 steps. Okay. And this one is 300. So this one is 300. Capacity is 300. Then after 3, the first priority and the second priority will committed. So 3 2 will commit. 3 2 will commit means the array is 0 1 1 0. And this is the step number 12. You can find out the number of state from the previous table and from the capacity also. This is the third, when unit 3 2 1 are committed, and at last all the units are committed. So for any given hour of the day, for a given load, the search is restricted to these above states only. Hence, we can easily see that DPSC can give only a suboptimum solution. The solution is that if the load demand is up to 300, then unit 3 should commit. If the load demand is up to 550, then unit 3 and 2 should commit. If the load demand is up to 650, then unit 3 to 1 should commit. And if the load demand is up to 725, because this is the maximum generating capacity, then unit 3 or all the units should commit. That is called the unit commitment schedule. How the load demand is generated, that is the defined. That is can be based on the economic load generating criteria. But at defined values of the load demand, what are the units committed? This is given by the unit commitment DC. Sorry, the TC, truncated combination, and this is the truncated combination.
স্যার বলছি প্রায়োরিটি অ্যাকর্ডিং সে যে অ্যারে গুলো লেখা আছে ওইগুলো স্যার কিভাবে
array?
আছে একটু একবার বলে দেন।
This array is
Yes,
actually from this particular table. This array, just look at this one. Unit 3, unit 1, 1 minute. Unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4. Okay. Now, if only unit 3 is committed, then 0, 0, 1, 0. So that's why the array is 0, 0, 1, 0. If unit 3 and 2 are committed, then this is 0, 1, 1, 0. If unit 3 2 1s are committed, then 1, 1, 1, 0. And if all the units are committed, then it is 1, 1, 1, 1, like this. And the array number is from this particular table. Array number is based on their increasing generating capacity. So in this way, we need to find out the unit commitment schedule. This is the example of DP SC, sequential combination. So you see, sequential means one unit on at a time, then the next unit based on their priority order. And this is the example of DPTC, truncated combination. Truncated combination, most advantage is that here, if we schedule all these things, then we doesn't require to do any further one to find out this one. DPSC also. So for the DPLC also, you see, starting from the this one, starting from the 300 megawatt to 725 megawatt, whatever be the load demand from this particular table, you can easily understand that at what load demand, what are the units should commit. বোঝা গেছে তাহলে কি বলতে যাচ্ছিলাম?
Yes sir, yes sir.
So this DPSC sequential combination is little bit easier compared to the DPTC. Hope you should not get this type of question in the semester, but for your higher study or to understand this method, this one is also required. So I'll give you one sample problem using the DPSC as well as the DPTC. So please try at your home, and after this one you need to find out this table. This one is actually calculation to find out the minimum cost, and this is actually the problem. This one is actually the problem. So once you have the data that at what generating cost, what are the units should commit, then to find out the commitment, it's very easy, because you see, this is actually the problem and that is actually the solution. But behind the solution, you need to do a lot of things. Here also this. Here you need to find out this one also. This table is important because this table actually gives us the defined arrays with their increasing net generating capacity.
স্যার বলছি যদি 2 মার্কসের যদি এমসিকিউ হয় তাহলে কোন কোন জিনিসগুলো পসিবলি ফাইন্ড করতে যেতে পারে?
2 marks এর হলে কোনো I think there is be no calculation is required for any 2 marks objective, but if this type of thing is there, then either you need to find out this one like this. If let me see, suppose this one is given and find out the priority order. So priority order is always from based on their average generating cost. So which is the lowest cost? This one has the highest priority. Which is the highest cost? This one is the least priority. So from this table you can see that unit 3 has the highest priority, then unit 2, then unit 1, then unit 4. And based on this one, if a particular generation is there, then how to find out the average cost of this one, or how to find out the cost of this, like this. And other objectives like what is called the unit commitment is not required. That how many methods are there to find out the unit commitment solution, how many dynamic programming methods are there, what is the difference between this dynamic programming and the priority list. So priority list is actually used to find out the unit commitment solution when the number of units is very less. And this dynamic programming is required when there is a more number of units are there. And this one also gives a more accurate solution. But remember one thing, both the dynamic programming and the this priority list method never gives us the most optimum solution. So how to find out the most optimum solution? No ways are there. Practically, there is no way to find out the optimum solution till now. That's why, as I told you, that this area is a very, very challenging area by the researchers. So many research is still going on. So many people are doing their PhD with this one, and they actually find out the different methods to find out the most optimum solution using the dynamic programming. Because the number of equation is very, very big here. Our main aim is to how to handle this very high number of equation and how to solve them within a quick time when the load demand is keep constant. Because suppose I give you 1000 equation, you can using some high-speed computer, using some sophisticated algorithm, you can easily solve this one. But to solve this one, some time is required. Say 5 minutes time is required to handle this 1000 equation. And within this 5 minutes, if the load demand is changed, then everything is changed. Because your solution methodology is very fast, and within this time, it is assumed that the load demand is not. Generally, the load demand is changing in every second. But we should not consider this one. Suppose we take the load demand is varying from at least 30 minutes. So within these 30 minutes, we must find out the solution. I'm just giving one example. If with the 30 minutes is become 1 minute, then it is very, very accurate. But your solution methodology must be able to find out the optimum solution very quickly, which is not possible if we handle this large number of equations. That's why we need to delete some of the equation based on certain assumptions, certain conditions. So this is called the heuristic method, which is actually not following any actual method. Actual method means this is the ideal thing. But if we go for the ideal, nothing will happen. So that's why we go for a more practical way. And how the ideal and practical related based on this assumption, based on this condition, all these things. Okay. Okay, so anybody else who want to respond to their attendance?
Sir, 51.
Sir, roll number 41.
Sir, L02.
So 42.
41, 42 and 41, then L02.
Sir, roll number 18.
L02, কত বলি 49 না 39?
39.
39, তারপর কি বললি বনি কত বললি 18?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
Sir, 21.
21,
Sir, 30.
30. 1 minute. What about the MAR? Because
23.
আচ্ছা তার আগে এটা হয়ে যাক, তারপর যাস না কো বেরোস না এখন একটু।
L08, sir.
1 minute.